So welcome to Pure Yoga, the last week of February, and we're doing the Finding Balance sequence, and it's going to be the Vinyasa flow. So starting with yourself in child's pose, we're just going to take a moment just to become present on the mat. If you can have handy some water, maybe a block or a bean can or something that will just bring the floor a little bit closer that's quite sturdy to the floor. When you're ready, bring yourself into a child's pose, walking the hands forward towards the front of the mat, bringing the chest towards the floor, forehead to the mat, bringing the seat towards the feet, widen the legs, and then let that belly sink between the inside of the thighs. Just let those shoulders relax, let the neck relax, the jaw, the forehead, and just take a moment then to scan the body from the fingertips to the toe tips, just having a check-in with how your body feels today. Maybe just having a turn of the head in both directions, a little movement of the hips, noticing how they feel, maybe a little roll of the shoulders, noticing whether there's any tightness in them places. Maybe a squeeze of the fingers into the palms and a squeeze of the toes towards the soles of the feet, and then just let everything relax. Everything sinking to the inside of those thighs. Your next breath in, walk the hands over to your right side mat, bringing your left hand on top of your right, sink into the right inside thigh, stretching the left side of the body, breathing into that space. Walk the hands over to the left side of the mat, bringing the right hand on top of the left, sinking the chest to the inside of that left thigh, and just breathing into that right rib cage. Bringing the hands back to centre, taking a breath out here in that neutral place. Just keeping those shoulders relaxed, neck relaxed, hips relaxed. Just creating some space in that lower spine. So the breath today, I want you to bring as your main focus when you're holding the balances. Try not to hold the breath in those balances. Keep them coming nice and deep in through the nose and out through the nose. Maybe with that slight restriction at the back of the throat. Make your way onto your hands and knees, bringing the shoulders over the heel of the hands, knees underneath the hips. Take a couple of rounds of cat-cow. Breath in, lifting up of the head, the tailbone, dropping the belly. Breath out, fold everything back in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks, centre of the spine lifts. One more in both directions, softening through the elbows but pushing into the hands. Take it the opposite direction, chin to chest, tailbone tucks. Come back to a neutral space, tabletop position, stepping both feet back into a plank, holding your plank, softening the elbows, widening the fingers, pushing the hands into the mat, chest cavity into that space between the shoulder blades. Squeeze the glutes, draw the belly back, making sure you're breathing nice long breaths in and out through the nose if you can. Unless you feel you need to use that mouth. Squeeze the heels back, crown forward, one more breath in this space. Then starting to make your way up into downward facing dog, paddling the feet as you arrive here. Moving the hips a little from side to side. Having a nod, having a shake of the head. 3 vinyasas, taking it from option 1 through to option 3 unless you wish to do another option. Come forward to plank on the inhale. Release down with the knees, turn the creases of the elbows, untuck the toes, release the chest to the floor. Push into the hands, take it to a little baby cobra. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, the chest comes back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Option 2, if you're coming with me, forward to plank on the inhale. Turn the creases of the elbows, release all the way to the floor, nice and controlled. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, maybe come up a little higher into an up dog. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Stay with option 1 or 2 or option 3, forward to plank on the inhale, turn the creases of the elbows, release to a hover in line with the elbows, roll over the toes, thighs stay away, lift up the chest into our full expression of up dog, then roll back over those toes with straight legs, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So take a nice long easy breath in here, nice long breath out. First balance, side plank, come forward to a plank, roll onto your right side, lift up the left hand. When you've found that balance on that right side, maybe lift that left leg up to hip height, toes back to the shins, finding that balance on that right side body. Holding it here just for another breath. Then release that left hand back down, left foot back down, lift up the hips, squeeze those heels back. Next breath in, raise up your right leg, bend into your right knee, stack up with the hip. Then realign the hip, bring the right knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands, step your right foot through. If you're using a block, just bring it in front of you. Step forward onto your right leg as you raise that left leg up as high as you can, bringing it into standing splits. Right hand takes a hold of that right ankle. If you wish to challenge the balance a little more, take a hold of with the left hand. Nice long easy breath, balancing on that right leg. Then just bring the hands to the fore, bring that knee to meet the right, keep that left foot lifted. So all our poses are going to be going from this space. Keep a nice bend in the right knee. Bring the hands to the chest and then start to straighten out with the right leg and the left leg, pushing the left heel back to the back of the room. Hands stay at the chest, hips stay nice and level, finding our warrior 2. And then release the hands behind you, palms face down, finding our aeroplane pose. Remember, you can have your hands on the block if you wish, and just lift that left leg. Then crawl it all back in, bring the hands back to the chest, bend into both knees, and bring yourself into a little squat, holding for a breath here. Then release the hands, lift the left leg back up towards the ceiling, and then step that left foot to the back of the mat. Step the right foot back to meet the left, take a vinyasa of your choice, lowering either to the floor or hover, or knees dropping down. Find your up dog or your baby cobra, taking it back to down dog, either chest to thighs, or rolling straight over those toes, lifting those hips, squeezing those heels back. Have a little nod, have a shake of the head. Side plank to the left side, come forward to a plank. Roll onto your left side, reach your right hand to the ceiling, and then find that balance by lifting that right leg up to hip height. Keep pushing into that left hand, right toe squeezing back to the shins, keep a nice long line through the body. One more breath here. Then release back to full plank. Lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Next breath in, your left leg lifts. Bend the knee, stack at the hips. Realign the hips. Bring your left foot through in between the hands. Then step forward onto your left leg and reach that right leg up towards the ceiling to standing splits. Bring your left hand onto the ankle. If that's enough for you, keep it there. Or maybe bring your right hand onto that ankle also. Holding it in that standing splits, one leg balance. Then release those hands to the floor, bend into both knees and find that Jiva squat for a moment. Then bring the hands to the chest or bring them onto a block. Find that crouching position first, then straightening through both legs, reaching back with the right heel, torso's in line with the hips. Both hips are in line and centered, so both hip bones are facing down to the floor. And then reach the hands back, palms face down, squeeze the shoulder blades together to find that aeroplane pose. Right toes back towards the shins. Holding it here for one more breath. Then release the hands down, lift the right leg back up to the ceiling. Step the right foot back, step the left foot back, and take a vinyasa of your choice. Remember, you can drop the knees, bringing the chest towards the floor, keeping that back bend slight with a baby cobra, or take it higher if you wish, bringing the chest back to the thighs, or rolling straight over those toes, lifting up the hips and squeezing those heels back. Have a little nod, have a little shake of the head. So just turning your left heel in slightly and reach your right leg up to the ceiling. So that left heel turned in slightly gives you a little bit more of a stable position. Put your weight into your right hand and then bring your left hand up to hip height to find that two-legged downward facing dog. Right leg's lifted, left hands to the hip height. Stabilizer of that left foot with the heel slightly in. Take one more breath here. Then release that left hand back, right hand back, and find yourself back in down dog. Your next breath in, raise your right leg, bend up your right knee, turn your hips out to the right. Realign the hips, bring the knee to the chest, gaze in between the hands and step your right foot through. Step forward onto your right foot and lift that left leg. Maybe take the right hand around the ankle. Maybe take the left hand around the ankle. Holding it in that space for another breath. And then release the hands to the floor. Bend into both knees to bring yourself into a squat. Left foot stays lifted away from the mat. Choice to use a block if you wish. We're taking half moon. So just bringing your hand away from the floor. Pushing your left foot back, straightening your right leg. And then turning the body towards the left side. Reaching up with the left hand, back with the left heel. And turn the toes to the left side of the room. That block helps you balance. If you're not using a block, just fingertips hovering to the floor. Turn the hips out to the left as much as you can. Shoulders stacking, hips stacking. Maybe send that gaze to that left side of the room if the balance feels okay. One more breath here. Then release the hands down, turn the hips back towards the mat, lift the leg up nice and high, and then step your left foot back. Reach the right foot back to meet the left and take a vinyasa of your choice. Maybe take that hover to elbow height, lift up the chest, squeeze the shoulders back. Make your way back to down dog, either chest to thighs, or rolling straight over those toes, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So this time, turn your right heel slightly in, toes slightly out. Lift up with your left leg, putting the weight into your left hand. Maybe take that right hand to hip height, fingertips pointing back. Finding that balance of down dog on two limbs. Hold it there just for another breath. Then bring that right hand back, left hand back. Find your down dog. Next breath in, left leg lifts. Bend that knee, stack at that hip, turn the hips to the left. Then realign the hips. Bring your left foot through, in between the hands. Then step forward onto your left foot as your right leg lifts. Finding your standing splits. Left hand maybe comes onto the ankle. Maybe the right hand comes onto that left ankle to find that one leg balance. And then release the hands back to the floor, bend into both knees. Find that Jiva squat. Left hand either comes onto the block or fingertips to the mat, wherever you wish to take it. And then straighten out with both legs, pushing the right heel back. Then lifting the right hand up to the ceiling, turning the hips, the shoulders, finding that half moon balance, turning to the right side of the room. Holding in that space, stacking your right shoulder on top of the left, right hip on top of the left hip. Toes of the right foot pointing out to the right side of the mat. Holding it there just for one more breath. Then release the hands down. Lift the right leg up a little higher. And then send the right foot to the back of the mat. Left foot back to meet the right. And take a vinyasa of your choice. Either that hover or lowering straight body to the mat. Either a baby cobra, mini up dog, or a full expression. Taking it back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So we're going to be trying that down dog again with the grab of a foot. If you want to just take it to where your expression was last time, feel free to do so. So turn your left heel slightly in, toes slightly out. Raise your right leg, bend your right knee, and bring your right foot towards the left bum cheek. Push the weight into your right hand and send your left hand back to maybe grab a hold of that right foot. Holding it in that two-leg balance of down dog with a grip of the left hand to right foot. Stretching down that quad of that right leg. Release that left hand back, release the right foot back. Take a moment in down dog. So we're going to go for a similar kind of thing when we go into a standing balance, but the left hand will grab the left foot. Reach up with your right leg. Bend the knees, stack at the hip. Realign the hip, bring that right foot in between the hands. Step forward onto your right leg and lift your left leg up towards the ceiling. Maybe take the right hand around the right ankle. Maybe you bring the left hand to the right ankle, holding it in that standing one leg balance. Release both hands to the floor. Bend into both knees. So choice can be to go back to half moon, or if you're coming with me, left hand takes a hold of that left ankle. And then as you straighten the right leg, you bend that left leg to lift that knee higher. And then turn the hips and the shoulders to the left side of the room. Maybe that right hand's on the block. To find that hold of that left foot, stretching through that left hip flexor. Maybe turning the gaze to that left side room. One more breath here, right leg straight, left knees bent, and left knees turning up to the ceiling. Bring both knees back together. Bring yourself into that Jiva squat. Then lift the left leg up to standing splits. Step your left leg back, hands to either side of the right foot. Step your right foot back and take a vinyasa of your choice. Rolling through, up, lifting the chest. Making your way back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. So same on the right side. Turn your right heel in, right toes out. Lift the left leg up, bend into that knee. Turn the hips, pushing your left heel towards the right bum cheek. So now we're stabilising into that left hand as we start to reach that right hand back. Maybe to take a hold of that left foot. Keep pushing strong into both the right foot and the left hand. Maybe lift that left knee up a little higher. Holding for one more breath. Then release that right hand back, left foot back, and find your downward facing dog. Have a nod and shake of the head. So we'll do that same standing pose on the left side. On your breath in, left leg lifts. Bend the knees, stack at the hip. Realign the hips, bring that left foot through in between the hands. Step forward onto your left foot, raise the right leg. Choice to take a hold of the ankle with the left hand. Maybe you stay here or take a hold with the right hand. Balancing on that standing left leg. Release both hands back to the floor, bend into both knees. Take a hold of your right foot with your right hand, and as you straighten the left leg, you start to lift that right knee up and start to turn the shoulders towards that right side rim, stretching through that right hip flexor. Feeling that stretch into that right side waist, that balance on that standing left leg. And a little support with that left hand either to a block or to the floor. Come back to that Jiva squat. Both knees come together, right foot stays lifted, hands to the floor. Then reach up with the right leg, standing splits. Step your right foot back, your left foot back. And take a vinyasa of your choice. Remember, those knees can drop, those bodies can come all the way to the floor. Finding your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Maybe find a moment in child's pose, or take a moment to take on some water. Remembering always to breathe as you hold those balances. So taking a deep breath wherever you are, whether that's child's pose or just sitting on the heels. And then when you've taken a nice long deep breath in, long breath out, meet me back in down dog. If you're coming through tabletop first, then back into plank, and then lifting up the hips to squeeze those heels back. Have a little nod and a shake of the head. So this next pose is going to be transitioning from Jiva squat through to dancer pose. So just let everything relax through the shoulders and the neck. Drop your left heel in and your toes pointing out. So remember, these are choices to take this wherever you want to go. I'm going back to that two-legged down dog, bending the right knee, lifting it up, pushing your right foot to the left bum cheek. Put your weight into your right hand and reach back with your left hand. Maybe take a hold of that right foot. Holding it here for the count of 3, 2, 1. Release the left hand back, right foot back, found down dog for a breath. Then on your next breath in, reach up with the right leg, bend the right knee, stack at the hips, realign the hips, bring the knee to the chest, and step that right foot through. Step forward onto your right foot, raise your left leg. Maybe bring your right hand to the right ankle, your left hand to the right ankle, to find that standing split balance. Use the glutes of the left to lift that left leg as high as you can. Then release the hands to the floor, bending to both knees, knees coming line, left foot stays lifted. So this time take a hold of the left foot and then slowly bring yourself all the way up to standing, reaching up with the right hand, left knee in line with the right, and then lean forward with your right hand and torso. Push back into that left foot, into that left hand. Hips stay nice and neutral to the front of the mat. Shoulder blades squeezing together. Straight right leg, bent left knee. Holding it in dancer for another 3, 2, and 1. Release everything back into that Jiva squat. Release the left hand to the floor. Lift the left leg up, standing splits. Send your left foot back, right foot back. And take a vinyasa of your own making. Maybe you need to progress it or regress it. See what your body wishes to do. Stay facing those challenges. Lifting up the hips and squeezing of the heels back. So choice to take that 2-leg down dog again. Lift the left leg, bend the knee, turn the right heel in, toes out. Turn the hips. Put your weight into your left hand as you reach back with your right hand. Maybe take a hold of that left foot. Lifting that left knee. Oops. Keeping it nice and supported by those 2 limbs, left and right back leg. Then release everything back to down dog. Take a moment in down dog. Next breath in, left leg lifts. Bend the knees, stack up at the hips. Realign the hips, left knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through. Step onto your left foot, raise up your right leg. Maybe take a hold of the left ankle with the left hand, maybe with the right, working on that balance of standing splits, left side. Holding just for 1 more breath. And then bring hands to the floor, Jiva squat, bending both knees. Right hand takes a hold of the right ankle, squeeze it into the bum. Grow up tall through the torso, up with the left hand. Bending forward with the left hand and torso as you push that right foot into the right hand and resist with the hand. Finding dancer standing balance. Holding it here for another count of 3, 2, and 1. Bring everything back to that Jiva squat, both hands to the floor, right leg stays lifted. Then lift that right leg up to the ceiling, standing splits. Step your right foot back, left foot back, and take a vinyasa of your choice. Roll through, up, lift up the chest, taking it back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. So we're going to do forward to plank, back to down dog, and a tap of the right hand to the left ankle. Forward to plank, back to down dog, left hand to right ankle. On your breath in, forward to plank. On your breath out, back to down dog, right hand taps left. Forward to plank. Back to down dog, left hand taps right. Forward to plank. Back to down dog, right hand taps left. Forward to plank. Back to down dog, left hand taps right. 2 more both sides, forward to plank. Back to down dog, right hand taps left. Forward to plank. Back to down dog, left hand taps right. 1 more both sides, forward to plank. Back to down dog, right hand taps left. Forward to plank. Back to down dog, left hand taps right. Forward to plank. Hold it there for a count of 5, 4, nice and strong through the torso, 3, 2, and 1. And lift the hips back to down dog. Either step one foot to the outside of the right hand, one foot to the outside of the left, or take a jump to bring both feet to that space. Start to sink the hips and find your Malasana squat. Elbows to the inside of the knees, chest lifted, tailbones tucked under. Close the eyes and breathe into this space for a few breaths. Long, easy breaths in. Long, easy breaths out. Then release the hands in front of you. Choice to find a cushion to put in front of your head or use a block, whichever works for you. Bringing the block on, forehead onto the block. We're going to find our arm balance of crow. So bringing the hands down, lifting up the hips, walking the toes in slightly. Bring the hands to the floor, bring the knees as close into the armpits as you can take them. So either here you just find yourself in this space, just finding yourself putting the pressure into the hands. If you want to take it further, maybe take a lift of one leg and then release that foot to the floor. Maybe take a lift of the other and then release that foot to the floor. If you want to go full expression, make sure those elbows are bent. Weight comes into the hands as you then lift both sets of toes away from the floor, hooking one toe around the other, holding it here for as many breaths as you can. Try not to hold that breath. Finding balance through the hands for one more breath. And then step back to plank if you can, or just make your way back to down dog. If you're back to plank, take a vinyasa. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Take it back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Nod, shake of the head. Coming down onto the knees. Just take a moment, either in child's pose if you wish. So the last thing we're going to do is you can either try crow pose again, or you can take a punted trying side crow. I'll do this facing the front of the mat, facing the camera, sorry. If you stay facing your short edge. So the aim here is to balance the knee onto an elbow. So bring yourself into a squat, heels slightly lifted. If this isn't for you and you want to continue doing a few vinyasas and maybe trying another standing balance that we've done already, feel free to do that. If you'd like to try side crow, I'm not necessarily mirror imaging you here. I will just give you the left and rights that I'm using. So we try and bring our left elbow all the way around to hook onto that right knee. And then the left hand comes to the floor, the right hand comes to the floor. And the aim here is not to settle that right hip onto that right elbow. All the weight comes into that right knee and left elbow. And then you just rock yourself forward and maybe just bring it to there. And then bring yourself back. So just make sure you've got a really good hook. So long as your rotation is quite deep, you'll be fine with this pose. So keeping that hip away from that right elbow, just bringing your right knee to the left elbow, rock forward again, and maybe you find some air. Lifting those toes away. That hip isn't resting on that right elbow, just the right knee on the left elbow. So when you've tried and played with that side, you take it the other. So this time your right elbow hooks all the way over your left knee and your both hands come down on the mat. Maybe you let yourself just rock forward and rock back. You may find one side's tighter than the other to find. This side's definitely tighter for me. I'm not always necessarily going to get any air, but I'm just working and trying to progress this to get some balance. So don't let that left hip drop onto the left elbow. Just find the balance with the left knee on your right elbow. So coming forward, supporting with the hands, maybe take that air, lifting those feet, holding it there for as many breaths as you can. Keep breathing, easy breaths. Coming back out, turning back to the front, make your way onto your bum. Heels forward, toes back. Give those legs a little paddle. Bring the arms out to shoulder height and slowly let yourself come all the way to the floor. We have one more balance left to take, but if you suffer with high blood pressure, I will just ask you to lift your legs without coming onto the shoulders. So this is going to be a shoulder stand. The key is to keep the gaze up towards the ceiling. Make sure you have plenty of space behind you if you're going to bring it into plow pose. Hands come down by the sides of the body. So that practice last week where we the week before where we created space should help this thoracic spine, give you some space to bring the legs up and then over. So hands come down on the floor. Take a bend into both knees and then push the hands into the mat and roll yourself onto your shoulders. If you've got high blood pressure, just bring the feet up, push the heels away. If you're with me, rolling onto the shoulders, keep that gaze facing up, don't turn the head left or right. Bring the hands to the lower part of the back and then just shuffle the shoulder blades towards each other. The chin is tucked into the chest. If you're happy here, stay here. If you want to take it with the legs up high, take one foot up to the ceiling and the other foot to join it and just hold it in shoulder stand. And we're going to hold it here for the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you have any neck issues, don't come to this place, stay with the legs up. If you're coming with me to plow pose, start to bend from the hips, bringing those feet behind you with control, either to the floor or just to hover away from the mat. As you can see, I never gave myself quite enough space. If you've got yourself in full plow pose, maybe bring the hands back to the floor to support. If you're having any issues with the neck, come out of the pose and just find those legs up high. If you're coming out of the pose early, bring the legs to the floor and then push into the elbows to come up onto the top of the head. Breathing a couple of breaths in plow pose. And then slowly let that spine come all the way to the mat with a controlled movement. One vertebra at a time, coming to the floor, then start to bend into the knees, bring the feet to the mat, let the knees drop out to the side, come up onto the elbows and then onto the top of the head to bring that neck into its counter pose, opposite direction. Gazing the gaze back to the back of the mat, pushing the chest up nice and high. Counting a couple of breaths in what we call fish pose. So we're creating now the expansion through the chest as we've been in compression in shoulder stand. One more breath here. And then release yourself back out. Bring the shoulders back to the mat. Bring the arms out to a T shape. Bring the knees into the chest. And then let the knees come over to your right side and your gaze over to your left side. Let's take a little rotation through that spine. Keeping that left shoulder grounded, chest facing up, hips facing the right, knees and ankles together. Use the support of the hands on your next in-breath to bring the knees back to centre, using those oblique muscles to lift those knees back up. And then take the knees over to your left side, your gaze over to your right side, trying to keep that right shoulder grounded. Try not to let an arch come too deep in the lower back. Keep everything nice and safe. Maybe the gaze goes towards that right hand, just to take that neck in that different direction. Again, chest is pointing up and the hips are now pointing to the left side. Then bring those knees again back into the centre. Keep those knees into the chest for a breath. Give them a squeeze. So our last pose is going to be bridge pose, but you have the option to come into a full wheel if that's within your practice. If you're just doing bridge, hands come down by the sides of the body, feet come to the mat, hip width apart, gaze stays up at all times. As you push those feet into the floor, raise the hips. Maybe when you're in this position, you may want to just come to balancing on the left foot, reaching your right foot up to the ceiling and holding it for 3, and then do it on the other side. If you're coming with me for full wheel, the hands point up, bend the wrists, start to bring those fingertips to point to the shoulders, elbows facing up, feet hip width apart, and then push into those hands and maybe just come up onto the top of the head for starters. If you want to take it deeper, then push into the hands, straighten the elbows, straighten the legs, finding that full wheel, toes pointing forwards in line with the heels, gazes down or to the back of the room, holding it for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release maybe to the head first, and then tuck that chin under, roll down the neck. Just windscreen wipe those legs a couple of times. Maybe you stayed in bridge, lifting one leg at a time to find balance on one leg. And then bring those knees back into the chest, give them a hug. Just before we take a moment in relaxation, stretching the legs out long. Bringing the hands down by the sides of the body, palms facing up, fingers gently curled. And take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Long sigh out through the mouth. Another long deep breath in. And a really long breath out. Bring it back to your own natural automatic breath. Find a comfortable space for the back of the head. Relax the forehead and the jaw. Close the eyes. Try and bring the shoulders down and away from the ears. Maybe push into the heels and tuck the tailbone down, making sure that lower back isn't in too much of an arch, and rock the hips from side to side. Maybe placing your right hand on your belly, your left hand onto your chest, and try and take that 3-part yogic breath, allowing the belly, the ribs, and the chest to flare. And then on your out breath, let the belly drop, the ribs drop, the chest drop. Find that breath, breathing into the belly, the ribs, the chest, and then softening back through the belly, ribs, chest. if you wish to stay in relaxation for a little longer, pause me now. Or if you're coming out with me, start to wriggle those fingers, wriggle those toes. Move through the wrists, the ankles, the elbows and the knees, hips and shoulders. Then reach up with the hands, take a full body stretch, arching through the back, pointing through the toes and the fingers. And then bringing those hands up and over, slowly bringing the knees in towards the chest. Maybe having a little rock of that body from side to side, massaging that spine, thanking it for practice. And then either rolling to one side or just rocking up and down that spine a couple of times. Up to seated once, back down. Up to seated twice, back down. And then this time when you come to seated, find your way into either a cross-leg position, legs out in front, or on the knees, bringing the hands onto the top of the thighs. Take a long breath in, bring the hands up and over the head. And on your out breath, bring the hands to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.